You can hear a bullet as it snaps by. One of the scariest things is to be walking down a trail and suddenly hear a snap. And then look up and hear the report of the rifle, because the bullet is traveling faster than the sound. So by the time you hear that rifle go off and see the smoke, the bullet's already gone by you. And for a bullet to snap, it has to be close. But it's literally, as it catches the air, it comes by, you can hear that. I guess it's like a sonic boom, you know. When a plane comes directly overhead, he's faster than the sound, you'll hear him boom there, you know. A bullet will do the same thing. And the very first time I realized that that could have killed me, got my attention. And suddenly, I couldn't deny anymore that I was in way, way over my head. I had always said, you know, you're not a soldier. I'd always said I was just going to put in my 2 years. I'd always said, maybe I won't get sent to war. I made excuses. I made rationalizations. I did what I could for myself to deny the possibility that I'd get hurt or killed. Suddenly, there was no more denying. Suddenly, when that first bullet cracked by, I realized that you are, I think nowadays they call it downrange. You are downrange. And this, and the second realization is, I've only been here 2 weeks. You know, I got to put up with another 11 and a half months of this, you know, and I'm never going to survive. I'm never going to make it. This is the end of my life, you know, and you start thinking about, I'll never see my parents again. I'll never see my friends again. I'm going to die here, and I'm going to die alone. You know, I'm not going to have anybody to be there for me. You know, I mean, yeah, the guys in the unit you're close, but you have a certain distance because you don't want to get too close to anybody because it hurts when they get hit, you know, and they're gone, you know, and I don't only mean killed gone, I mean gone as in he was wounded and then he was medevaced and you'll never see him again, or he's dead, you'll never see him again, or he used up his year and now he gets to go home, you'll never see him again, you know. It was one loss after another. You got used to it, and you learn not to make good friends over there. You know, you tried not to make good friends. I don't think anybody was truly successful in that. It was a horrible world to live in alone. It was a horrible world to live in, but it was even worse to live in it alone. So even without wanting to, you got close to some guys. You clung to one another for sanity. You clung to one another for the humanity of it. You clung to one another out of fear, out of terror, especially during firefights. And all the time you're telling yourself, don't get too close to that guy, don't get too close to that guy. And you can't help it. So you learned sort of a dichotomy. You learned that closeness was situational, that it was important not to get to know anybody until they had proved to you that they had a chance of surviving. You stayed away from new guys because they didn't know enough yet to convince you that they won't be dead tomorrow. And that was tragic because probably the people who needed you the most were the new guys because they were the most scared. They didn't know what they were doing. I mean, I was a new guy, and then when I became what they called an old vet, I stayed away from new guys too. We made fun of them. We wouldn't let them in the club, until they had proved to us that they were competent enough to be safe to know. And some made it, and some didn't. First casualty I saw. I actually saw a dead person before I saw anybody get hit. We were moving across a rice paddy. Could have been a farmer, could have been a Viet Cong, I don't know. But he had been hit by shrapnel. They used to fire artillery in the middle of the night. They called it H&I, harassment and intervention fire or something like that. They just fire at random. Nobody's supposed to be out there. Let's fire a couple of rounds out, high explosive rounds out there. And if anybody's out there and he gets hit, well, it's his own fault because he wasn't supposed to be there. Well, there was this guy, either he was a farmer that had been working in the fields late and needed to get home, or he was actually a Viet Cong, or he was a messenger. I don't know what he was, but he had been dead for maybe 3-4 days, and he was bloated. I mean, when the body dies, all of the liquids in the body turn to gas, and the body swells up. So this guy was huge, and I was repelled. I mean, I was repulsed by this sight, and yet the guys who had been there, it was a break, and they sat down and they ate lunch. They just had their lunch. And then as we were leaving, one of the guys took out a pistol and put a bullet in the body, and the body exploded because it's like hitting a balloon, And these guys thought that was funny. And I didn't think I would ever get like that. I could never get that callous and that inhumane. But you know what? War does that. War makes you that inhumane. My later time in Vietnam, I discovered that life had very little meaning. Didn't matter. My life didn't matter. Anybody else's life didn't matter. It was part of what had been done to me, but it was also my own doing, because I found the only way to maintain my sanity was to do away with my feelings, so that I could think and I could function. What I couldn't do is feel. And it wasn't a light switch. That's one of the problems I had when I came home, was I discovered I couldn't turn on my feelings again. I had become very hardened. And you see these guys, you read about them in the papers, and they're on trial for murder, and you look at them and they don't care. What the hell, man? I mean, there's no remorse, there's no nothing. I got into that world. I learned what it meant to be on that side of the fence, where you just don't care anymore. And that's a very dangerous time, because you can lose yourself and never find yourself again. So as I said, that was first time I ever saw a dead body. I saw, when I was a kid, somebody died and they had them all fixed up, funeral, the coffin and all that, but that wasn't the same. I've been in country about 6 weeks before I got my first firefight. I have to say something about war.